and so on. And we are currently looking at what that means for our long-term capital requirements and what sort of support would we require from the shareholder in future. Next slide. So as I was saying earlier on, you can see the solvency ratio, our solvency capital ratio went down significantly to minus 347% due to the riots, to the civil unrest we had in July. Next slide. So where are we at the moment? For the year 2022, our solvency was standing at 68%. The regulator, that is the Prudential Authority, has instructed us that by June 2022, we have to be above 100%. We are currently projecting that in June 2022, with the capital injection, the reinsurance arrangement that we have at the moment, we will be sitting at 115%. That assumes that we will have settled 90% of the claims that we have seen in previous slides. What is really interesting about the claims development is that 1%, less than 1% of the claims were, in terms of the number, were responsible for 64% of the amount. We believe that we will be able to achieve this target of 90% if we focus on settling the bottom 1%. Some of the reasons why these claims are not settled is because SASRIA, instead of paying cash to our policyholders, we opted to reinstate, which means that some of the malls are now being rebuilt. Some are forecast to be finished the following year. So the claims are going to remain outstanding on our system, even though we have approved them, but we're still waiting the invoice through the phases of building. That was the one reason. And the second reason is that some of the smaller commercial businesses are struggling to formulate the claims. You'll appreciate that during the riots, most of them lost their financial records, and we are trying to put them together. Our loss adjusters are assisting where they can, and we have been in touch as well with SARS and asked these smaller businesses to say, look, if you cannot formulate us your claim, you can give us your last submission to SARS. So those are some of the issues that we are faced with in settling some of these outstanding claims. Going forward, though, I asked my colleagues to do another scenario of an event. What event can we withstand going forward? If, for instance, we were to experience an event that will lead to a 3 billion rand loss after June 2022, that solvency ratio of 115% will drop to 91%. What this means is that we are not yet strong insofar as the capital injection is concerned. We are still quite vulnerable, and we have to build the business using the premium increases and so on to get us stronger. Next slide, please. So to give you an update on the Ripple, I think one needs to give credit to the SASRIA team that I am sort of inheriting. It's done remarkably well under challenging circumstances. We have seen some of our top clients, and all of them were thankful in the manner in which SASRIA handled their claims to ensure that they get back to business quickly. In fact, some of them said they doubted that SASRIA will basically meet its commitments, and it's testament to the role that has been played by the SASRIA team, the people in Treasury and Parliament in making sure that we get the cash injection much more faster than it normally takes. So insofar as liquidity and financial sustainability, currently we can say we are on the green there. We've got the cash, we've got the money to meet all our obligation that arose out of the July unrest, and us to be properly capitalized. We've engaged our stakeholders. You'll have seen that SASRIA went into the front foot insofar as engaging the media, having discussions with the South African public as to how we're responding to the situation of the unrest. And we developed good relationships with all stakeholders, be it client, brokers, agents, and the national regulator. Insofar as growth strategy, risk mitigation, and underwriting strategies, there are 3 initiatives that we are busy with. We have advised our clients that we are increasing premiums, and those premiums will be affected as policies get renewed. Most insurers go through a year renewal cycle. Some do it monthly and others do it annually. We are putting in place other mitigation initiatives. Here, really, we're looking at how we can make sure that businesses are protected even when the police fail to respond. So it's engaging the communities where these losses happen. Firstly, we want to try and understand why there was those riots, listening to those communities, using research, and see what mitigation initiatives can we take to encourage communities not to ban or destroy infrastructure that ultimately serves them. And we are looking at other underwriting initiatives where, for instance, there is a particular product that we've withdrawn, which is the excess of loss cover, which was used by the big corporates. So we've withdrawn that because we couldn't get reinsurance support. When it comes to people, really, we've had a stable team. We anticipated that some of the people might leave the organization because of uncertainty, but really we're pleasantly surprised by the team. They decided to stick it out and see us through these challenging moments. As I've already covered, really from a recapitalization point of view, we put a reinsurance structure in place in August, new rates implemented in Feb. We've received the capital injection, and yesterday we did get from Treasury, they did approve the new memorandum of incorporation for SASRIA, which means we can be properly recapitalized by June 2022. Next slide, please. What does the future of SASRIA look like? I will not bore the members of the NCOP with this slide. I think you are all aware of the report that was published by the presidency on the 3-man panel, which looked at what happened in July. The Human Rights Commission is still concluding its report. Really, the only take that I will share with the members is this, is that when we work out our premiums, our various scenarios, there is a presumption that the police will respond in time. So if you look at the civil unrest in July that occurred over about 9 days, on day 5, the losses were not as significant. But when the people realized that there is no security response, it then accelerated in the last 4 days. This is something that we wouldn't have foreseen in our scenarios. Hence, the losses are much more bigger than we would have anticipated. Next slide. Next slide, please. So what's a risk assessment? Currently, if a SASRIA were to experience a similar event in the next year or two, we will not be able to withstand them, even with our existing reinsurance arrangement, as the scenario with 3 billion demonstrated. The clients, especially the big investors in South Africa, your retailers, whether it's ShopRite, Pick n Pay, the Foschini Group are releasing its results sometime this week. For them to invest in the South African economy, they would like to see that we continue to provide cover. Currently, we are restricting all our customers to a maximum cover of 500 million rands per legal entity. This is clearly not adequate. Cover from London, from Lloyd's, which would normally be the other market for them to take the cover. Basically, the premiums have gone, in certain instances, are more than 10 times what it was the year before, because Lloyd's is taking a view that occurrence that happened in July is likely going to reoccur. Next slide, please. So what are we doing? Which is what any conventional insurer does when it's been faced with a loss. You members, I think, are old enough to remember September 11. That happened in the US. Post that event, globally, premiums went up. So we are not unique in that response. We've increased our rates and we've reduced the cover that the clients can take. The other thing that when we're studying what is happening in other parts of the world where this cover is provided, is that the insurer, which is normally state-owned, has got access to intelligence information. The study of the report published by the three-man panel showed that a year ago, the intelligence community in South Africa did project that there is going to be more turbulence in the last year. So we would like that sort of information be shared with SASRIA where possible, so that we can plan better. We are also working with our clients to see how they can improve their security. Some of our clients are building walls around their distribution centers. They are investing in rubber bullets, in ways for them to protect their property. But in reality, the long-term solution to the problem is not going to be walls. It's going to be how we make sure that South Africans, especially in those communities, participate in the economy. No amount of walls can stop thousands of people determined to enter a place. We have exited the rep product, and as Muzi has spoken, we are trying to penetrate the SME market and the underinsured clients. Next slide, which should be the end of our presentation. My last remark is that South Africa has been here before. The more comparable loss was in the June 1976 riots. And the members will have seen in the last 20 years, SASRIA has been rebuilding, accumulated reserve. It paid substantial dividends to the state. It paid taxes and so on. We would like to believe that the occurrence of July is not going to repeat itself in the same magnitude if it were to reoccur. In a democracy, we do expect people to protest as it is their right. And as SASRIA, we need to be in a financial position to withstand the losses that might occur due to that, and give confidence to our large corporates to continue investing so that we can create more employment opportunities. With that remark, I would say thank you and hand over to the chairperson of the committee for questions.
Right, thank you, sir. Thank you for a very comprehensive and precise presentation. As for its value, the members will comment and hand over to them. So who's first? Let's see, Kuleleko, you're going to help me. So we got Dennis, obviously, Mr. Dutoy, Willie Alkamp, and for now, those are the three. So over to you, sir. Right, over to Dennis. Dennis first, then Fani, then Willie. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, Chair. Thank you very much indeed. Mr. Chikwe, thank you for your presentation. Let me start by making a few comments on you personally. First of all, congratulations on your appointment. I'm not sure if it's a poison chalice or it's a reward, but I wish you the very best of luck. And on that note, I'd like to just make the point. I think you've been in your position for 2.5 weeks, and the knowledge that you have already on this matter is impressive. And I think that your presentation that you've given us today has been quite comprehensive and has answered many of the questions that I have so far. So well done to you specifically, and to the rest of your team that helped you put the detail together. Yeah, looks like good things coming. That's good news. Thank you. So my first comment obviously relates to the claims that remain outstanding, and the fact that I'm a little bit disappointed to see that yeah, it's around 30% of claims that are still outstanding. Now, you addressed this matter in your presentation to a degree, and you know, I do hear what you're saying, that certain rebuilding operations are still taking place, and it'll take time for those invoices to flow, etc. And I think that's fantastic, and hopefully that is helping a little bit with the cash flow issues. But there's one other worrying aspect, and that related to the SMEs, the small business guy who's been paying premiums to date and is struggling with their claim. And I just want to know, you know, quantify that for me, first of all. How much does that make up? Because realistically, it's the small guy that needs the most protection from government, and it's that small guy that needs that needs our help. So if we've got a lot of people that are still really struggling to formulate their claims, I must say I like the issue of getting their last tax return. But I mean, also many of those businesses were kind of new mom and pop shops that have probably been in existence for less than a year. We saw it on our trip to Pinetown with the Defence Committee. You know, real small little new businesses that didn't have a track record and probably didn't have a set of financials yet to place reliance on. So what assistance are you giving to them, and how's that helping? The other part of the question is, how much of that amount outstanding relates to cash flow issues? In other words, and yeah, let's be blunt, how much more help do you need from the shareholder? How much more are you going to be asking Treasury to come to the party with? Because I think as the Finance Committee, we also wear a hat on a different day called appropriations, and it's something that we will be most interested in. So how much are you going to ask Treasury for still? You spoke about the operational capacity issues, and I just like to hear, and I think that yes, this was, I don't know if it's a black swan, if it's called a black swan, but it was a once-off, unexpected, it has all the hallmarks of a black swan type of issue. But how much support did you get from the rest of government? So I think that probably, yes, support from Treasury would have been most welcome and probably desperately needed You know, we often see the military being deployed to assist with health issues when there's an unusual event and there's support needed. You know, I think Treasury sending some people across to help with some financial issues would have been what I would have expected. If you can tell us perhaps if your operational capacity was boosted through any intergovernment support, because I really believe that you made the point yourself in several presentations, that several parts of the presentation, that the government's failures are what led us here with the issues, the slowness of the response, the inability to respond to the intelligence. Right, you answered the next question about, is your liquidity enabling you to withstand similar events going forward? But yeah, and I mean, I didn't like your comment that we're hoping that it's not going to happen again, when, you know, Lloyd's of London is telling you that it's going to happen again, and I don't know too many people that'll bet against Lloyd's. And yeah, I hope that we don't have a Hail Mary approach to what's going to happen if this happens again. And I think we need a better strategy around that. Perhaps you can quell my fears a little bit there. The next question relates to the premium growth post July 2021. Have you seen a lot of people realizing, hey, getting SASRIA is a good idea, and suddenly starting to take up? Has there been you know, a bunch of people rushing in to come and get additional cover post July 2021? Yeah, my last question, you know, I don't believe that the war in Ukraine has any insurable issues that would be claimable against you, but if you can just confirm that for us. And the same for the floods in KwaZulu-Natal. You know, I think that those issues fall outside of your scope as the special risks insurer, but perhaps you can just give us some insight into those two issues, please. Chairman, thank you very much, and a good report. Well done.
Now, you know the order, right? There's no need for me to intervene unduly, right? Now, City Cleary is in the line of questions as well. Questioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I also want to thank for the presentation. Partially covered. I want to find out with regards to the agent companies that were appointed by SASRIA to assist with the claims. What is the basis of their appointment? How were they remunerated? So did they work on a percentage of the claim that was handled? If more information can please be provided on that, please. And yes, I think that what Honorable Ryder mentioned with regards to Lloyd's, it is quite troublesome. We must also keep in mind that looting of the containers took place in Durban with the recent floods that we had in the KZN in that province. And we're seeing that unrest is also flaring up over the country in numerous places, like, for instance, Kirkwood, where farms are targeted. And we'll have to see how the whole issue with regards to the provincial committees and the structures that's finalized on the ANC play out on municipalities in the near future, with also looming protest action in that arena. So I think we've got our work cut out for us. There's an interesting time that lies ahead. But if you could please provide more information on the agent companies, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Chair, may I continue?
Yeah, why you want to self Willie, particularly doesn't waste time, then you'll complain I talk too much. Okay, go for it.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Yeah, I also want to thank the presenters for a very thorough presentation. My question goes with regard to the limitation of future damage that might occur. Now, under normal circumstances, normal insurance companies would, when a claim or big claims like this occur, they will have direct communication with their client or the people that might be responsible to mitigate that risk and say, please, in future, you will benefit if you drive slower. Let's take a car, for example, or this is what you've got to do to decrease the risk that we've got to carry on your behalf. I would like to know what the underwriters that are involved, what advice were there that they gave in order for us to be able to mitigate occurrences like this in the future. If you look at the Zondo report and what is currently happening with regards to high politicians or well-known politicians that in future might and will probably be arrested or will be sentenced to jail, the probability of a reoccurrence, as was stated by Lloyd's, in South Africa is going to be very high. The chances of other politicians that have got a base of supporters that can be mobilized by them should they get arrested, that probability is very high. So it brings you to the question, what discussions were there between you and government that might assist you in mitigating claims in the future? What can government do to ensure that in future there will not be a repeat on the same scale as we saw here? We saw just after the riots took place, whether it's a riot or insurrection, that's a debate on the words, but we saw after that took place that there was a total lack of communication between intelligence, between the police. We had a police commissioner and a police minister that didn't speak to each other, and all those were contributing factors that led to the government not being able to suppress this as quickly as possible. So my question is, firstly, what advice did you get from underwriters and professionals in this field that can assist us with mitigating the size of events like this? And secondly, what discussions were there between you and the government in order to mitigate or to lessen the burden that might arise out of future events that surely might still happen? Thank you very much.
Dikeledi.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, and good morning to the members and the Team SASRIA, also so other members from Treasury and the Parliament officials. A very good morning to you, and let me join my colleagues by welcoming and appreciating the presentation. And I think the presentation is still fresh from what we discussed in the previous, in the last meeting. And there were questions that we had and are still coming up. But I think most of the issues that we have raised are a bit clearer. And the subject on the matter now is a discussion on the quarterly report. And with your permission, Chair, I would like to just shift a bit from that and just come with one thing. The situation we're facing today with the floods in KZN, I know it has affected many, other areas, but mostly in KZN. Is there anything that you have planned? I think I'm talking about the future now, or the plan that you're having, your intervention plan. Is this within your scope? What is it that you're going to do, or you are expected to do? Will you be able to do it, or do you expect more injection from National Treasury? That's what I want to know. And going back to the subject matter, Chair, I was always worried when members of the opposition were always saying it will come again. And I was worried because I wanted to understand why do we, or do other people or other members believe that it will happen again? But now, after this presentation, it looks like, from the intelligence point of view, you are informed it will happen again. And I'm asking myself again, what informs that? But they are the intelligence people, they know better. Maybe other members had were fortunate enough to have access to such information, or they were able to prophesy that it will happen again. But I will talk against it, that it should not happen again, because it's not only what we could afford to do, but the impact that it has on the social welfare of the community. It's really not okay. Honorable Ryder has covered me on the issue of the SMMEs, because previously we also had a problem with the issue of the SMMEs. The SMMEs, as much as they have this, they have businesses, they have they are visionary in terms of their businesses, but they need assistance. And you have also touched into tax issues. So I'm happy. I'm one person who is happy now that the president during the SONA has pronounced on the cutting of the red tape, which means it will be easier for the SMMEs to claim or to access assistance. And my question is, how far do you go? Are you able to assist, to hold their hand, to assist them in terms of following the procedures for them to access the assistance that you are offering? I will take it until here, Chair, and thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry. I'm showing you that I'm here, obviously. I mean, as if I need to, and I look the same. My problem is my Wi-Fi, particularly I missed a part of what you said. I got cut off and then Nkululeko got me back in. So I apologize once again for those who joined us a little bit later than the starting time. I just can't connect. I'm having problems. My gadgets are being updated, so I'm stuck with my cell phone. You know, when you transfer data, you've got to move from the old to the new gadgets. And so by then the Wi-Fi is also extremely challenging. Sorry about that. It's the first time it's been so, well, one of the very few times it's been so difficult. Very quickly, yes, I think you're doing very well, sir. You know, for having come in 2 weeks ago, as Dennis Ryder says, and to get a compliment from Dennis Ryder is doubly valuable or significant, because that's not always what's coming from him. But there you are. He too says you're doing well, and congratulations. It's very polished presentation. I like also the precise tables and so on. Sometimes it doesn't help me, at least me, I can't speak for others, to get a sense of the quality of those statistics. What do they actually mean? And of course, I've got this opportunity as other members of asking you precisely that, and I can't go into all of the questions. I do note, of course, that as I'm sure others did in different ways, that 85%, if I got this right, of your claims are below 1 million, which implies yet again what a disproportionate, surprise, burden that the smaller businesses have had to bear on this unfortunate and regrettable civil unrest. I also, I think I'm covered in different ways, so I won't, but obviously nobody, and I'm sure you agree, needs to be penalized simply because you don't have the capacity like the big wigs in business to do proposals, and you will ensure that they assist in that regard so that they don't lose out. On the issue of whether it's going to happen again or not, we don't know. But my own view, and within the ANC, I've got a slight sense of what others might have as a view. I think it's reasonable to say that the conditions are here for it to happen again. But whether it'll happen again or not is partly a matter of agency and resources and capacity and will. We can, whichever party we come from, and civil society and business as a whole, can do much to try to reduce the prospects of that. But it is really, I know not everybody, I know for a fact not everybody will agree. All of us here, in my view, in some or other degree, in some or other form, are co-responsible for where this country, we can't run away from it, really. Never mind which party we're in, and you can better for the democracy allows you to, the majority party, and ultimately, yes, obviously, we must take primary responsibility for the July unrest. Now, some of the questions put to you, I think, fall outside your purview. The political question. There's something that should be asked of the minister, and obviously we should debate these things in the committee and in the NCOP and Parliament as a whole. So you don't have to answer anything that falls outside your purview unless we can show you that it does, and you must respond. And Frank Jenkins will help us, the lawyer, in that regard. I find this question very original, Dennis. War on Ukraine there actually leads to requests to very interesting, to SASRIA for losses. That's very interesting question there. I never thought of that. Not that it follows and therefore it's interesting if I didn't think of it, but it's, yeah, you know, somebody could, I mean, there is anything, somebody could make a claim that, you know, the export-import thing is affected, whatever, but I hope not. Maybe they should make the claim to Russia and NATO, actually. Both of them, hopefully, equally, hopefully. That's my view anyway. So let's move on. Since we got where we have about the politics of it, now obviously the SASRIA Act goes back to the apartheid era where they spoke of rights. And obviously the legal term, presumably from the legislation, is what you have to use as official. But for what it's worth, there's a cluster of us who don't think that's an appropriate description. It's basically earlier question to you about will it happen again? You see, riots generally, which is what the apartheid regime referred to the 1976 student uprising as, which is what we say, and the semi-insurrection of 1980, particularly 1985 onwards, was described as riots. You know, the notion of mindlessness, that it's really inherent. I'm not saying those who use it always think that, and I don't think at all any of the members of this committee feel that way, but we must be careful also in the choice of words, not you so much as civil society and ourselves, but you also might want to refer to it as one of you did. It's a social or civil unrest. It's not because there's something inherent in people's biology or psychology, well, when I say biology or DNA that makes them turn to violence. They do so mainly, not solely, except those are psychological issues, right? Because of the conditions of society, because those of us in power don't hear them, because of the inequalities in our society. What would be so surprising if the civil unrest breaks out again in a country?
Point of order, Chair.
Yeah.
Chair?
What's the point of order?
Point of order. You are misleading this committee. All the reports indicate that the unrest in July 2021 was as a result of politically motivated instigators. So please don't mislead the committee. And if you could speak up, you're very unclear.
Yeah, no, I can't do better. My Wi-Fi is what it is. And that's not misleading. That's a different point of view. Three of you provoked it by the questions you put. I was not going to raise this. But I believe that this unrest was caused by a multiplicity of reasons, as you well know. I've said it before, Fadi. You've been in every committee where I have. The gentlemen and women who are here from SASRIA don't know that. But it was also politically motivated, related to the former president's detention. I've said that publicly in meetings. It's quoted in some of the media. So there's nothing new there. But what I'm trying to say is ultimately, I'm responding to a particular use of a word, riot or riot. That's what I'm responding to. So you're free to disagree, but it's not misleading this committee. It's actually nonsensical to suggest a different point of view doesn't mean it's misleading. So you have your view, Fani. I've allowed you to say it. Now you listen to me, or don't switch it off. Come back when I'm finished. But I have every right as a member of this committee to say what I'm saying. And I'm addressing SASRIA. And I'm saying to you, you can continue to use the word right, but it could amend your orientation to these issues, as you yourself are doing, and saying, look, we have to prepare. So that comes to the next question. Can you tell us a few lessons you've learned from the July unrest and what you would do to try to manage this should it happen again? The next point, you know, although you've done very well as I see it, and your presentation is unusually good compared to what we normally get here, the question to you is, what about explaining a bit more about duplicate payments and claims is caused by human error and negligence? What is this really about? I'm not really clear. You might have added to it, I might have lost it, because you know you can't concentrate 100%, and sometimes your Wi-Fi doesn't assist you in that regard. So these are a few questions that I'm raising, but it's set against the background that, look, you're absolutely right. You get about, you said 3,000 claims, right? And suddenly it shot to 16,000 if I got your figures right. Now, in that context, this is unprecedented exponential growth of claims, and you had limited staff, you had drawing outsiders. I think you've done overall quite well. At least that's how it appears to me on the surface. But even then, please explain, if you have the time, or you can write in reply, if there isn't enough time to cover all these issues and you're not free to give us a full enough answer, you can always write to us. Look, the duplicate payments of claims, please explain a bit more. Secondly, what is this thing about cell phone allowances for employees were not capped? Why is this surface? Is it because suddenly members of your staff were using the cell phone, like wantonly, and what is the word, without any consideration of cost? But presumably they did it because of the increase in workload. Or is it that you've got evidence that they were abusing it, in which case, should you have waited for the July unrest to have a cell phone allowance that's capped in some form or another? Most organizations, business and public entities do have some sort of capping. Parliament also has it for us, correctly. So then you ask about, or you say you did fruitless and wasteful expenditure of 1.472 million and irregular expenditure of 543,041. Well, maybe against the measure of what you've had to do since the July unrest, maybe it's not a big one, of a performance, but maybe it is. I can't say, but maybe you'll respond to that. Yeah, I'll stop there for now. I think that 10:30, so we've got enough time up to 11:30 for you to respond. But maybe you want to be more pithy and precise in your answers, and we can have a second round then in that case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the kind words that were shared by the members of your committee about the presentation. I must also extend thanks to we've got an in-house joke here where we say incoming CEO and outgoing CEO. I must give thanks to the outgoing CEO, Cedric, who has prepared me well for this presentation and sharing some information up to the time my appointment was confirmed by Cabinet. And also, ever since the board started the recruitment processes, I've been following this parliament in particular, looking at the presentations that SASRIA was making into it and the questions that the honorable members have been asking. So since then, one has been preparing himself for this role. And I would like to thank Cedric Masondo and the executive team of SASRIA for assisting me and being so kind and generous to me. Now,
can I just say something? Can I intervene here, right? So, okay, obviously we have these changeovers very often. I think you're being rather modest, and it's good that you are, but just to say, we obviously, well, I do on behalf of the committee, or the majority of the committee, before somebody says I'm misleading this, because I haven't asked his opinion. Let me put this to you. The majority in this committee, I would imagine, want to also thank Mr. Masondo and the rest of the members who assisted you. But the fact is that, even then, you're doing very well. It's but inspiring. Let me put this to you. I hope the potential we see here gets fulfilled. But, you've done very well. You've got a good command of the issues. You're quite confident. It's great. It's wonderful to see that. We haven't met you before. It's nice to meet new people. I don't know what your age is, but your voice suggests you're young. So great. Thank you. But we're not going to be like your Imbongi, eh? If you don't deliver the next time, we're going to equally tough on you. But of course, people will say, yeah, Parliament's always attacking everybody. Nobody acknowledges that we also acknowledge, as Dennis stood in the very beginning, the very first member, the leader of the DA, Dennis Ryder said, you know what, you're doing a great job. So there it is. I think all parties, well, at least most of the parties here, I think share that view. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just for the record, I am 56, turning 57 years old this year, and I have been in the industry for 35 years. So
right.
yeah, so that's where some of it comes from. So let me start with Honorable Ryder's questions around the SMME market. As my colleague Farida said earlier on, if you look at the slide where I had the claims band, so claims below 1 million, which were done mainly by our agent insurers, of those 95% have been settled. And if you look at the next band, which is between 1 million and 10 million, we have settled at least 74% of the claims. So the next time we meet, or in 2 months' time, we can update the committee once we've done all the reconciliation of those claims. So insofar as the SMME market is concerned, I would like to believe that we have done a good job. And in what sort of assistance are we giving to the SMMEs? Let me give you an example of, there is one franchise store owner. Let's just say he owns a Pick n Pay store, and his claim is for 7 million rand. He's got access to us, at SASRIA, and we are quite keen to make sure that his claim is settled quickly. And you will think that someone who's got a Pick n Pay franchise or a McDonald's franchise or any of these franchises, the operational systems and the backup systems are world class. And we are trying to figure out, why is he not giving us the information that we require? Because they should know at least what stock they had, because of the systems that were in place. We can only speculate for the reasons why some of the people are not forthcoming with the information, because it should be readily available. And we can only assume that there could be two things in play. Some of them, because franchise fees are based on percentage of turnover. Some of them might have been under declaring the turnover to whoever gave them the license. The other one is that they could have been declaring they could have been also not declaring the right amounts to SARS. So that's why we are having some of these problems. Your smaller operators, we anticipate their claims, shouldn't be above 4 million or so. Those we have covered and we have paid, even with the absence of more detailed information. So that is the first question. Insofar as the second one about cash flow, I am more than confident that we have enough cash to pay all the claims and meet our capital requirements. The cash injection from Treasury is in our bank, and yes, so we are quite comfortable. We are expecting more income as well. As the CFO said earlier on, reinsurers will be paying us, and also we're going to be getting some cash from SARS. Remember, we're a VAT-paying entity. So if we're going to be paying claims in the order of 36 billion, there should be some VAT back due to us from SARS. So if we look at all those cash things, we are quite comfortable that we will be okay. Now, on the issue of our operational capacity, we are really looking at the redesign of SASRIA. I made the analogy about the boxer. We're going to train the boxer differently. He's going to have different kinds of muscles going forward. For example, my colleague in human capital, Tsepiso, the discussion that we are having is that we'll make sure that half of our staff going forward should be able to deal with claims, even if they are in another role. So that if we have an emergency like we have now, we can call from within our staff to start dealing with claims and assist the core claims department. The other thing that helps from our operational capacity is that we've got an outsourced model where we outsource some of the activities to our agent insurers and to the brokers. So relatively, I'm quite comfortable about that going forward. In so far as let me just say once and for all, we are not involved with the floods in KwaZulu-Natal. Those will be picked up by the conventional insurance industry. We've got over 40 short-term insurers in South Africa, and most of the property damage will be covered by that. But as members would know, in that what really happens in South Africa is those who are going to feel the brunt of the floods are those who do not have access to insurance, the uninsured people in informal settlements and in the townships. This is an area that as SASRIA, we are going to look at going forward, but before we can do that, we need to make sure that we are strong to fulfill our core mandate and then thereafter spread our wings. But the flood in Natal and the subsequent looting that is occurring will be covered by the conventional insurers. Remembering that the looting is the consequence of the flooding. The proximate cause is not any of the perils that SASRIA covers. So we should be okay, but I am sure the short-term insurers will try and argue with us about the situation. I'm gonna try and stay away from, as the chairperson referred to, expressing any political comments. I think I would leave that to the politicians. Insofar as what Lloyd's is saying, we are not saying we are not expecting this to happen. You know, Lloyd's before and the South African insurance market exited civil unrest cover. This used to be covered in South Africa before 1976 by conventional insurance. And because they could no longer make a profit, they then stepped away. As the record will show, over the 40 years, then SASRIA went on to make a profit, except for 2 years in its life. In fact, even the incident before this one, we had a loss ratio of just about 76%, which is a good loss ratio for any insurance business. So I would just say, looking back over the last 40 years, with this far much more worse conditions than before, SASRIA was able to make a profit. We have to plan for what is likely. We are planning that we will pay some claims, but we would like to believe that they will not be as significant as the July ones, given the unique circumstances that surrounded the July unrest. So I will leave that question there, and then I will go to the Honorable Du Toit's question about how we work with the agent insurers. As I said, SASRIA operates in an outsourced model. So there is a client who buys the policy. 70% of clients will speak with an insurance company through an insurance broker, and 30% will speak directly with a call center agent, or what we call the direct insurance model, companies like Outsurance and Auto and General. And then those companies then will bundle the SASRIA cover with the cover that is provided there. And the agent insurer will issue the policy, collect the premiums, and and settle claims that we mandate them to do. So when we decided to outsource the claims, we looked at the capability of the agent insurer. Some we allowed them to do claims up to 1 million, and others we allowed them to do claims up to 5 million. There is an existing service level agreement with them, and that agreement says that we will pay them an outsourcing fee of 12%, so 12 to 12.5%. And so we didn't pay anything extra for them to deal with these claims because they were already in their mandate. In the good years where they didn't have to deal with SASRIA claims, they made a good money out of the 12.5% we gave them, and now they had to assist us in dealing with the about 15 to 16,000 claims under 5 million. So I hope I answered that question properly. The municipalities, yes, they, in terms of the legislation, the Local Government Act, they have to take insurance, and we do cover them. But what we recognized some years back that this is a special and unique segment in the market, and the way we price for a municipality, for instance, is different from the way we'll price for a university or will price for a trucking business. So our pricing reflects the risk that they face. And one of the things that I have committed that I will do to the board is to try and come up with a matrix where we can measure the performance of a municipality using quantitative measures, not qualitative one. And then we can say, okay, we anticipate that this municipality is going to do well into the future. For instance, using a matrix like what percentage of their budget goes towards infrastructure investment, what percentage of their budget goes into, let's say, salaries, and does that mean that they are likely to, to meet their service level requirements? That's one of the things we're going to be looking into the future, and recognize municipalities that are doing a great job with an award, or alternatively, not use a stick, but use a carrot to encourage those that are doing well. We do have a program, field agents, the biggest insurer in South Africa, Santam, where we work with municipalities to improve their service delivery, to avoid that. And the Ukraine, we are not, SASRIA covers risks within the borders of the Republic, and we do not anticipate any fallout from there in any form whatsoever. There's no indication that we should expect anything coming out of that. Coming to Honorable Okam's question about decreasing the risk, yes, other insurers have got the luxury of, if they don't like a particular risk, they feel that you've been claiming too much, they can kick you out. In terms of the law, SASRIA must accept each and every risk that is given to it, and for that, it gets the monopoly status, and it facilitates investment in the South African economy. So we cannot do some of those things, but the only really tool we have, or tools that we have typically from an underwriting point of view, is one, we increase the premium if we see that the risk is increasing within that particular pool. So that's what we do. And the second one is, like we have done, is to look at limiting the exposure that we have to a particular client, and it's currently sitting at 500 million. It's coming to Honorable Mahlangu's comments. I think I've dealt with the fact that the flooding does not fall within our scope. As you know, we're a creature of statute, and the act that governs the creation of SASRIA stipulates which perils we need to cover. But we are engaging with the board first and with the Treasury to come up with solutions of risks that will face South Africa now and into the future, and how they could be covered. So for instance, things like drought and flooding, those sort of special risks, we are working with Treasury and the board to see how SASRIA can extend cover in those areas as we get stronger. Furthermore, we will try and come up with solutions in partnership with our field agents for our uninsured clients. In particular, one of the things we're going to be doing is to develop, black brokers that operate in the townships to raise awareness about SASRIA and also about conventional insurance. Because to insure your house conventionally, it's not particularly expensive. So, and it should be affordable, in most circumstances. But I do appreciate the fact that most South Africans are struggling and depend on grants. I will then, the support that we are getting from government. I mean, look, I was an outsider seeing these events unfold, and as an outsider, I would say the South African government, Treasury in particularly, responded very well to the challenges that SASRIA is facing. We did get a lot of support also from the industry. Some executives of insurance companies where they were in similar situations like us, where they will have an event that blows their balance sheet. They came to the party and assisted us in developing strategies as to how we can recover. Some also assisted us. They made available their public relations team to help our team to deal with the media thing. So you'll have seen that SASRIA's media presence has increased. So we've had quite considerable support. And as I come into this role, I've got certain ideas as to how far we should be going and what sort of things we should be doing in future. We are able to meet our current and future commitments as long as they are below a certain amount. If we have an event above, as I said, 3 billion, we are going to be in trouble. Can we predict right now suggest like more or less what we've been dealing with before the July incident, given that as the Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Karimi has said, the conditions that led to the July and the circumstances were rather unique. I will then hand over to my colleague, Farida, to deal with the duplicate payment. I know our system has been improved to avoid a duplicate payment, and we are not taking it light. So my comment doesn't mean that we are taking like my comment that's going to follow doesn't mean we're taking that. If you look at the duplicate payment as a percentage of our overall claims that we are paying, it is significantly small, but it does not mean that we do not take duplicate payments seriously. The fact that we are able to identify them and report them to you shows that we are committed to be transparent and deal with them when they arise and get the money back. But Farida will go further in that regard, and then after Farida, the CFO will deal with the issues that have been raised by the Honorable Karam around cell phone allowance and some of the fruitless and wasteful expenditure. I hope I have covered everyone, Chair, as I hand you over to Farida. Farida?
Thank you, Mpumi. Honorable members. In terms of the duplicate payments, the question that was raised related to the previous financial year's fruitless and wasteful expenditure. What happened at that time, the systems was inadequate, so it was a very manual process. A duplicate payment could be a duplication at that stage of invoicing towards a service provider. And in such instances, we have recovered the money back, as our CFO will confirm. The subsequent, the consequence management of that actions when something like that occurs is that we do a root cause analysis to understand what has transpired. As I've mentioned, the system was inadequate, and in December 2020, SASRIA had embarked on launching a brand new claims management system. Within the new system, which integrates with a new system that we also implemented in the same year within the finance division, there are now checks and balances in place to ensure that all payments are adequately accounted for. The only duplicate payment that we, from a claims perspective, could anticipate can happen still would be where we have an outsource agreement with an agent company, as mentioned previously, for the claims, as an example, below $1 million, and the claim as it reconciles to SASRIA, that there might have been a payment from SASRIA. But that is why we have a full audit process in place to ensure that those things don't happen. The ones that has occurred, as mentioned, our CFO will confirm was for the previous financial year, and those are the ones that we've put the mitigations in place for. I would hand over then to our CFO, who can speak to the other items that was raised in this regard. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. I will continue to speak on the question that's been raised on fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And if I recall, if I've noted correctly, yes, Honorable Member is speaking of fruitless and wasteful expenditure of 1472261 that was incurred in the previous financial year, which is a financial year of March 2020. So yes, there was a duplicate and overpayment of claims, as my colleague has expanded on it, and this mainly was driven by, I confirm, yes, it was driven by our legacy systems, and especially when we were migrating now from the legacy systems into our new systems, we had a situation as well where we could not, where we would have missed that a payment was paid in the previous, while we were using the previous system, and then you find that due to human error and sometimes negligence, as we investigated, is that it was also paid when we migrated to the new system. I do want to explain as well that out of the 1.4 million of fruitless and wasteful expenditure incurred in that financial year of 2020, 1.272 million of it was fully recovered. And this is, there was a supplier so where we paid incorrectly, which makes up the significant part of this 1.472. So we paid incorrectly that supplier of an amount of 1.2 million, then we recovered it at 1.267 million. So those are mainly the descriptions of some of the fruitless and wasteful expenditure incurred in 2020. And and then I do want to speak about I think the honorable member also mentioned cell phone allowances. I think what had happened in that financial year was this: we have, especially our employees that are in stakeholder management, you find that the company would have taken contracts on their behalf, and then we set a limit to them that per month, this is how much the size of your allowance is. However, to match that, there ought to have been a control on the side that we instill on the side of a service provider, where we tell the service provider to cap, automatically cap the cell phone usage at that allowable allowance to a fellow employee. So we did not do that, and hence it then led. So you find that the employee continues to use the phone in that particular month, and does not access or ways to detect when they hit their limit, and this then has led to that irregular spend as far as the cell phone allowance is concerned. I hope this answers and clarifies the questions raised under irregular. Thank you.
I think with that, Chair, we are done. And if there is a question that we failed.
Okay, I don't see any hands up. Sorry,
Yes,
I don't see any hands up.
Can I, Njadu?
Yeah, Mr. Njadu. Yes, of course, my friend.
Thank you very much, Chair, and my apologies to join late as beyond my control. Chairperson, yeah, let me just thank also the presentation and the clarities on the questions. I just want to put a more emphasis on emphasis on the duplicate payments. My emphasis, Chair, is just to check in terms of what are the measures that are put in place in terms of strengthening your internal controls, because I think the duplicate payments may be based on internal controls. So I just want to check in terms of what measures are being put in place to strengthen your internal controls. And then further question is to, if monies cannot be recovered, what will be the consequences if funds cannot be recovered? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Over to you, SASRIA.
Farida?
Yeah, thank you. Honourable members for the question. The measures that's put in place, firstly, the big one was the new claims management system that was implemented. So within the system, there are various triggers that facilitates the total payment process. As an example, for a payment to go through, and it's a company, the company registration number gets vetted and verified as well. So there are various system integration points with escalations that prohibits a payment of going through. And the check and balance in that is also to check for duplicate banking account numbers. So if a banking account appears a second time on the system, it flags. So there's various operational controls, but there is also the system in itself where we've built in those controls. and it integrates with the system that is within the finance department called our ERP system, and ERP system has its own set of controls as well. Beside that, there is two levels of authority from a human perspective within the claims department, and that is the senior claims controllers, team leaders. So the payments also has to pass through those individuals. So we've put in operational people as well as system controls to ensure that we don't have duplicate payments going forward. I hope that answers the question, Honourable Member.
All right, unless there's a follow-up there, I don't see any hands up. I'm going to draw the meeting to a close. We will meet with you again, given your increasingly important role. I think you're acutely aware, as indeed to different degrees most of us are, that the conditions we live in are, but let's put it this way, are conducive to social unrest occurring. And there's a multiplicity of reasons, as we said, and you can't be held responsible for the internal divisions within the ANC or for the obscene inequalities in our society, which are highly racialized. So this is the circumstances which you're operating. What we would like, therefore, I think, or something you might want to think about, and the majority of the committee might want to consider, is the next time you appear, also focus a bit more on your preparations, if you like, for the possibility, not the inevitability necessarily, but considerable possibility that some or other degree of social unrest will be part of our society for a while at least. So maybe focusing more on that. Now, obviously there you have to get the support of Treasury and government departments, right? It's not your task alone. But what I'm trying to say is what I don't get enough of, and maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm wrong, but for what it's worth, I feel there needs to be a slightly more proactive projection of where you're going, taking into account the volatility of our social fabric and structure at the moment, so and political and economic structure at the moment. So that's all I can plead for. Obviously, not a big issue for us with the Finance Committee, after all, together with our committee in the NA and the Appropriations Committees in both houses, is to actually look at what it does mean in terms of allocating resources and funds in a circumstance where the budget is over-constrained and overburdened, and the economy is just not growing. So these are difficult times, but we shouldn't give up. And most of us at least, are quite confident that with the current leadership, you'll be able to do as much as is possible in the context that you alone can't do it, address all these issues that we've raised fully and adequately. But we thank you. Best wishes to you, and thank you, colleagues and comrades. And we shall join again at 12:30. Yes, do come in, whoever it is.
Sure. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say I really appreciate the time the Parliamentary Committee has taken to have us as SASRIA come present to you this morning. And we also take note of your comment of us next time giving you more scenarios of what we have looked at. So as an organization, SASRIA on a regular basis does an own risk solvency assessment, which is the actuaries within the business, together with the whole business and the Prudential Authority, look at the business of SASRIA and what types of risks we could face, and also what types of financial means we need to have in order to be able to be resilient as an organization, so that when things like the July unrest happen, we are able to still be financially solvent. So I think it will be a good idea at the next session that we have for us to be able to take the committee through the work that has been done before. And what the CEO and his team have shown today is just very high level. And they did show a little bit of it, but not in as much technical detail as the team could go in to explain all of that. So a lot of that work is being done internally. So I just want the committee to be left with assurance that that amount of rigor is done in the organization, so that you're not left worried that we might not be thinking about that. But thank you so much. I'll leave it at that.
Good, good. So you're doing this, and we know you're doing it, and you say you'll share it with us in future in a fuller sense. Great, great. You know what? It's such an uplifting input from you as we draw to an end. Look, I can only speak for myself and maybe the majority, because at times my views are my own. It doesn't mean the ANC MPs necessarily agree. But you know what? It's nice to meet you, really, because, you know, the entities that appear before us often, it's quite, let's say, an uphill thing to engage with them and to be left with a positive feeling. I'm sure it's not all feel good stuff. It's really genuine, most of it at least. And to the extent it's not that you're deliberately misleading us. I think who knows how things will pan out. But it's great. It's great. It's really good. It's nice to meet you. You lifted our spirits, and you keep well. And best wishes to you. And you're a young team overall, and that's great too. Thank you indeed. Bye then.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Chair. Sure, Chair. Uthi nomntwana angithengeli.
Thank you.
Clearly, I can hear you declare.
Yeah. You get a sir.
Bye, Chair.
Bye, and thanks to management.
And thank you, Chair.